Good evening, I'm Christian Halston, and here are the biggest stories of the day from a both sides perspective. Starting with the big news out of France, where the so-called far-right leader Marine Le Pen of the National Party, who according to multiple polls was the front-runner to become the next president of France in 2027, was found guilty of embezzlement and sentenced to 2 years on house arrest, and more importantly was given a 5-year ban from seeking office in France, which essentially ends her hopes in 2027. Her alleged crime stems back to when she was a parliamentary member of the European Union from 2004 to 2016. As a member of parliament, she was given money, which is given to all members of parliament, from the EU to hire a staff that is specifically supposed to work on matters related to being a member of the European Parliament. Where she allegedly went wrong is that she used that money to hire people who weren't working on her parliamentary work, but instead working for her political party in France, which is the French National Party, which she was simultaneously the leader of. Critics are saying this is a blatant political weaponization of the French legal system to stem the movement to the right in France and stop Emmanuel Macron's leading political opponent. They also say this is a violation hard to avoid and is something done by many members of parliament who also have important jobs in their home country. The other side says the evidence is overwhelming and the law was clear and clearly broken, and despite the timing, the law must be enforced. She is appealing this decision, but the ban on seeking office remains in effect during the appeals process. We will see where this goes in the coming months. Now, some sad news regarding the 4 American soldiers who went missing 6 days ago while doing a vehicle recovery training exercise in the forests of Lithuania. They were found in their military vehicles submerged in what is called a peat bog, which is an area of wet, spongy, and often treacherous type of wetland. Their vehicle was finally extracted today, and unfortunately 3 of the 4 American soldiers were found deceased. The 4th is yet to be found, and the identities of the soldiers have thus far been left anonymous. May their souls rest in peace. Yesterday, on Sunday, President Trump had a headline-making phone call with NBC's Kirsten Welker. Although the call was not released to the public, Kirsten released some direct quotes, including Trump saying he is pissed off with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This comes after Putin made a comment last week questioning the legitimacy of Ukrainian's President Volodymyr Zelensky and suggesting that peace negotiations may need to wait until after an election in Ukraine. President Trump said he may add additional sanctions and tariffs on Russia if they refused to continue in talks. Now, Zelensky was supposed to face an election in 2024, but due to the war, Ukraine is in martial law, and under the Ukrainian constitution, no elections may happen under martial law. Critics say this incentivizes Zelensky to keep the war going to stay in power, while others cite that delaying elections and wars is not odd. For instance, both the UK and France did so during World War II. In this phone call, Trump also stirred heads by saying he is, quote, not joking about running for a 3rd term. This comes after his longtime ally and advisor Steve Bannon said this a couple weeks ago.
Firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump.
Oh, you know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that.
Obviously, the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution is pretty straightforward. Quote, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Trump said in the phone call yesterday there may be some ways around this, like potentially having him run as J.D. Vance's vice president and then they swap after inauguration. This is likely the beginning of some very interesting legal challenges in the coming years. Also from this call was Trump threatening to bomb Iran if they refuse to come to the table to make a new nuclear deal with Trump. I wasn't lying when I said this was a headline-making phone call. But if you remember, back in 2018, Trump left the Iran nuclear deal signed by Obama in 2015. That deal lifted sanctions on Iran and re-invited them into the global economy in exchange for Iran not making a nuclear weapon. Back then, Trump called this deal stupid, as it allowed Iran to get rich and fund militant groups like Hamas and the Houthis and still make other types of deadly weapons, and it didn't wouldn't fully halt Iran's uranium production, which is the main element used in nukes. People for the Iran deal said the deal was mostly working, as the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the UN's nuclear watchdog group tasked with ensuring Iran's compliance, said Iran was complying with the deal and not making a nuke. Nonetheless, Trump left the Iran deal and is now threatening to bomb Iran if they do not once again come to the table to make another deal. Once again, we will see how this one turns out. And finally,
it's Monday. We have another big week. On Wednesday, it will be Liberation Day in America, as President Trump has so proudly dubbed it. The cabinet will be here for the event. It'll be our first Rose Garden event of this administration. So you all will be invited to attend and cover this historic moment. The president will be announcing a tariff plan that will roll back the unfair trade practices that have been ripping off our country for decades. He's doing this in the best interest of the American worker.
Now investors, companies, and really everyone is anxiously awaiting Wednesday to see the extent and scale of the tariffs President Trump will announce on this day. There have been conflicting messages from the White House about possible exemptions and who or what industries or countries will be left out. Trump is promising broad-scale reciprocal tariffs to even out trade imbalances and bring manufacturing jobs back to America. Some examples of these trade imbalances include the EU having a 50% tariff on American dairy, Japan having a 700% tariff on American rice, and India having a 100% tariff on our agricultural products. Some think these tariffs will force other countries to reduce their tariffs, creating a fairer playing field for American companies, while critics say tariffs are a tax and will cause prices to go up even more for American consumers, as even if companies do come back to America, it is significantly cheaper to build things in other countries versus America. Even Trump has conceded there may be some short-term pain in exchange for long-term gain. Now that's all I have for you today on Both Sides News. I'll be back tomorrow, as always, at 7 p.m. Central Time, covering whatever the hell happens tomorrow from a both sides perspective. Please be one of my first subscribers if you appreciate this content, as doing so will help these videos get out to even more people. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your night. Good night.